This is TWiT.
Welcome, Scott. It's great to have you on Triangulation.
Thank you, Leo.
Are you I guess you're a serial entrepreneur because
you could say, even if you count the things that didn't quite work out. So yes, I've done a number of startups.
Although I have to say, that's what they say at Silicon Valley. You ain't an entrepreneur till you failed. Yeah, he laughed. That was a very tenuous laugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
First became aware of Scott way back when you were on the Newton team. Look at that.
I was way back when.
What did you do at Newton?
So I joined the Newton team in 1990, just as it was coming out of the Advanced Technology Group. I had been in the Network and Communications Group working on Apple Talk services, which was, as revolutionary as Newton was, I think, with some of the things we were doing down in the protocol and being able to plug resources together. But I was brought into Newton to work on some of the platform capabilities that would allow interconnectivity and more rich computing. So I was working on the Newton 2.0 infrastructure, software and hardware, and that included all kinds of things that allowed the Newton device to connect to networks and connect with services and applications that were richer, and a tablet form factor as well. So I was product manager for the platform.
Wow. Newton got a lot of, mocking in a famous Doonesbury cartoon and so forth. But I have to say, I remember I have 3 of them in front of me, all of which I bought with my own precious dollars. But
thank you.
Oh no, I think I don't think I drank the Kool-Aid. I think I saw the future. And I remember, in fact, there's a clip somewhere of me in 92 or 93 holding up a Newton saying, just imagine if this were connected to this new thing called the internet and it were in your pocket. And I mean, this was the smartphone. It just was a little too early for its time. But I think the DNA of the Newton absolutely persists in the iPhone today.
I think so too, and I think it's. I was really lucky to work with such a group of people that were thinking so forward, and really without, Apple's charm is to think about computing without bounds, without preconceived notions or limitations. It was definitely ahead of its time, but some of the things that were pioneered by the team are things that really did change the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no question about it. I think that's the great minds will create products that aren't ready for their time.
So you'll like this, Leo. When I was leaving, one of the things that I was working on was, and I left the Newton team in 1993. One of the things that I was working on was a Mosaic browser. So we had a little Gopher client, and we were playing around with Mosaic in order to get to early internet resources over this wonderful thing called the web.
I had my Message Pad 2000, a later Newton, and we were just looking at the PCM CIA cards, and look, in here there's a modem card. It's like a credit card that goes in, and really clever little extension jack so that it didn't stick out from the side of the Newton.
What do you do with that? Do you actually had to plug it? What is that?
What is that? What the hell is that? Show this to anybody under 30 and say, what do you think we did with this thing? What was that? But of course, a telephone cable would go in there, and you'd make it was a modem. But you didn't have. I think that was really the thing that kept the Newton from succeeding, and frankly, also the Palm Pilot and its successors, was you didn't have internet access because the internet really wasn't a big thing yet. It's interesting that you were planning for it, though. Yeah, we had a model we called client server, and the idea was to make a Newton as a smaller compute platform, a smaller screen real estate, smaller, more limited data input capabilities. How do you further slice the client server model? We were thinking about reaching all the way through LAN, or what was local area network resources, all the way out into some of the wholesale what came to be internet-born resources. So it was really, really fun. So you've always been a kind of a networking guy.
That's where I started my career. I kind of got into the industry cold as a network administrator, and figured out from there.
By the way, kids, in the late 80s, being a network administrator was a very different job than today, right?
Yeah.
You were crawling on your hands and knees connecting token ring and
exactly.
Yeah.
Token ring, or that big thick Ethernet cable.
Remember that?
Before twisted pair. Sure, I do.
Sure, and if you disconnected any one computer because it was a serial network, the whole network went down. Whoops.
But you learn a lot. And you
Yes,
you
do.
actually had to do things like run, ping and poke tools where you would
Wow.
test the integrity of the wire from point
Right.
A to point B. So like you would own the full stack of what you were responsible for, and then you'd get up into the services. Today, it's a lot more abstract, like programming, right? It's become a lot more abstract, and it's great. The services are richer, but learning in those days was it gave you a really good foundation.
It's kind of fun. I often wonder if people who don't have to learn like the 7-layer model and work their way up the stack, if they really
does that exist anymore?
No, of course, it's crazy. It's a nutty. I mean, it does, right? I think it does. You still have a hardware layer, and you still have all those layers. But as you say, it's kind of virtualized, and nobody is even kind of aware of it. Which I think even then we thought, oh, this will be a great thing someday. Code will just write itself, and nobody will have to. But I also now, in hindsight, I'm thinking, maybe it's not such a great thing, because do people even understand? Well, I guess I don't know how my car works either. So that's normal.
It's I think it's probably the same for any sort of technology evolution or technology life cycle, right? It gets richer and it gets more abstract, and old guys like me can always say, you don't remember when
that? Yeah, we used to do that.